Yo, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing, checking back in with y'all, man. What's good? So I wanted to talk about Vergil Ortiz versus Mike McKinson, his performance, and what I'm expecting to see from him going forward. I didn't get a chance to do the immediate post-fight reaction because I was out of town. I didn't take my equipment with me to be able to record, and then also I had to really catch the fight on the back burner. So I wanted to touch on that and, really just give my thoughts on Vergil Ortiz's performance after watching it. Vergil Ortiz and Mike McKinson, they had a pretty competitive back and forth type of fight for the first few rounds. Vergil Ortiz came out and immediately got his respect, touched him to the head and to the body. McKinson, you could tell that he was feeling those punches, that he wasn't going to be able to take too much of that. Ortiz ended up stopping him in the 8th or the 9th round, I believe. He was, I thought Ortiz looked good on offense as far as with his big lefts and rights, the big power shots. He has a phenomenal left hook, a really good left hook to the body, right hook to the body. Nice uppercut once he do get on the inside to try to break through your guard. And it's just one thing that I didn't like. I didn't like the lack of a jab, because I know Vergil Ortiz got a jab. If you go back to the Mean Machine fight, that was a prime example of Vergil Ortiz using the jab and using it effectively. I'm talking about fast, stiff, powerful, and really breaking guys down and using that to set up his offense. In this fight, it just seemed like he was, and I know he'd been off for a little bit. He was supposed to fight McKinson a while back, but he ended up having some sort of blood disease or issue in camp that kept him from fighting. So maybe it was a little rust. But at the same time, I don't know. It just seemed like he was kind of anxious. Of course, you fight at the crib, Fort Worth, Texas. You know what I'm saying? And it just seemed like he was in a rush to try to get McKinson out of there. And ultimately, of course, he did. It's a gift and a curse when Vergil Ortiz fight like that, because when Vergil Ortiz get into that mode where I'm just throwing punches and bunches, I'm throwing bombs, and he precise with it. He don't waste a whole lot of punches. He might load up on shit, and if you make him miss, of course he can kind of be out of position because he really planting his feet and loading up on shit. But he don't just go and throwing like meaningless punches. The punches that he throw always have bad intentions on them, and he always get good leverage, and he always in a good position to throw. But it's a gift and a curse when he get into that kill mode, that seek and destroy mode, because number one, he's so violent. Like, when he gets in that mode, he's extremely violent and reckless, which could be good for him and bad for his opponent, because it's so much coming at you at one time, and any of those shots that he land, if they do land, can put your ass out. 19-0, 19 knockouts. Vergil Ortiz obviously has power, and he been stopping, some decent guys. So, but it also could be a bad thing, because when he do get reckless and he do miss those shots, he could be out of position. I seen Mike McKinson landing some really good stuff. He just ain't had no power on it. Terrence Crawford was ringside kind of critiquing Vergil Ortiz, and he said the exact same thing. And I noticed that. I'm like, man, McKinson really in position to land some shit every time Vergil get a little bit too reckless and overextend, and he be in the perfect position. He was landing that left hook. He was landing the uppercut, but he wasn't really getting a whole lot of clean shots. And then on top of that, he didn't really have the power on the shots that he was landing. So that's something that Vergil Ortiz really got to work on, using that jab to consistently. Don't just use it one fight and then you come to this fight and you don't use it, because that's how McKinson was able to set him up for a lot of those shots. those traps is because Virgil Ortiz just coming in, throwing big shots without really setting anything up behind the jab. And he got a great jab. You know what I'm saying? When he use it, it's a really effective jab. And I mean, it's one of those jabs that can probably put you down or stop you if he hit you with that bitch right. So, but overall, good performance again. 19-0, 19 knockouts. I want to see Virgil Ortiz take it up a notch. I want to hear him call for, we know that he's open to fighting Terrence Crawford. We know that he's open to fighting Errol Spence, but those are the two top dogs fighting. They're going to be fighting for undisputed. I want to hear Virgil Ortiz aggressively call for Jaron Ennis, aggressively call for Conor Benn, aggressively call for Imante Stanionis, aggressively call for Rashidi Ellis. You know what I'm saying? Aggressively call for Keith Thurman. You dig what I'm saying? Maybe Golden Boy be willing to put a bag up for Keith Thurman to, get Virgil Ortiz that hype that he want. You know what I'm saying? Get that notoriety and get that buzz around his name. They might drop a bag on Keith Thurman. I just want to see Virgil Ortiz, even though he's been fighting really good competition for his experience as a pro, only 19 fights. He's fought some decent guys, Mo Hooker, Mean Machine, Mike McKinson, who had a streak of, beating undefeated fighters in their hometown. You know what I'm saying? He's been in there with some solid guys and some veteran guys, even early on in his career. But I think now it's time for you to aggressively go after these young fighters that's up and coming, and that's gonna, they're the future of the welterweight division. It's only two guys from that other generation, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, and then Keith Thurman, but you really never know what he gonna do. But I want to see Virgil Ortiz aggressively call out those guys. I imagine a Virgil Ortiz versus Conor Benn fight. Oh my goodness, that shit will be fireworks. Two extremely explosive fighters. Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis. I like all of these fights. Virgil Ortiz versus Imante Stanionis is a classic. That fight does not go the distance. You feel me? It's so many great fights that could be made at welterweight with these now and future guys that we have in the sport right now, man. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. What did y'all think about Virgil Ortiz? How did you feel about his performance? What do you think he needs to work on? Right now being so young in his career, still very, very young fighter, 23, 24 years old. You know what I'm saying? I believe 23. Like, Virgil Ortiz is extremely young, so he got a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to get better. And he's already just, in my opinion, one of the best fighters at 147 right now, even at this young age and so early in his career. I think he's definitely a top 5 fighter at welterweight. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. Contender Regime Boxing. I'll holler at y'all boys, man.